Nobody wants their parents, siblings, or friends to leave them. When someone chooses to die, sometimes we can't help but feel like they have abandoned us. But that makes it seem like they chose between staying with their loved ones or dying, and they chose to die. Looking at suicide in this way can lead you to believe that suicide is a selfish act, but it's an extremely heavy and complicated topic that can't be reduced to a binary choice. As we move forward, consider this a trigger warning, as we will be talking about depression, self-harm, and suicide. If you are struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, please reach out to a qualified professional. We are by no means trying to glorify ideas such as suicide, but we would like to spread awareness about the complexity behind this topic. Why would a person want to die? Most people have a healthy fear of death, so it can be difficult for people who never had suicidal thoughts to understand why someone would want to voluntarily die. People who have never felt that way try to find a simple explanation for why someone would commit suicide. In 2008, legendary actor Heath Ledger committed suicide, shocking the world, who, just that year, was falling in love with his portrayal of the Joker. Why would such a successful actor, an outwardly happy and charismatic guy, commit suicide? The conversation around his death very quickly turned to his most recent role and the method he used for getting into character. That was the simple explanation that people latched onto. The Joker made him suicidal. But looking back, that doesn't make much sense. And it also stomps on the important conversation on mental health that we all probably needed in a year like 2008. As we later found out, Heath Ledger was struggling with anxiety. Suicides are complicated. People don't commit suicide out of revenge or because they want you to feel bad. People commit suicide because of trauma, harassment, or mental health struggles. But as pointed out by psychiatrist Abdolreza Saad-Dabadi and colleagues further elaborate. As there is no typical suicide victim, there are no typical suicide thoughts and ideations. It's unlikely for suicide to be used as a way to hurt others. Instead, it is a way out, an act of desperation, and the final statement someone can make on the overwhelming nature of their issues. And while suicide can definitely affect other people negatively, and loved ones do suffer from the loss, it isn't performative. Someone else's suicide isn't about you, it's about them. Is self-harm selfish? How do suicidal tendencies and thoughts present themselves? Attempted suicides and self-harm are the most obvious signs, but making suicidal jokes or distancing from friends are more subtle things to look out for. As sad as these indicators are, they can reveal how the suicidal individual is feeling. In a 2014 study on self-harm and suicide in people with specific disorders, depression, bipolar disorder, alcohol abuse, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, schizophrenia, and substance abuse, were all found to be disorders at risk of self-harm. But the study wasn't limited to studying mental disorders, but physical illnesses too. Cancer, epilepsy, and even eczema were found to increase the risk of self-harm. Mental illnesses and physical illnesses can both increase the risk of someone becoming suicidal. But some people find it difficult to empathize with suicidal people when their suffering isn't tangible. You may have heard people say they're just doing it for attention when talking about someone who self-harms. Maybe you even thought that way yourself. And sometimes, in a way, it is for attention, but not in the way people think. It could be a sincere cry for help rather than for sympathy. For young people especially, it can feel impossible to talk to parents about suicidal thoughts, so the cry for help manifests physically. Self-harm can also be a response to emotional distress or a form of self-punishment. So if you think someone being suicidal is just being selfish, you have to consider what life feels like for them. They may not realize how many people love them and rely on them. So who is it all for? When we don't have answers or reasons for someone being suicidal, as parents, siblings, children, or friends, we might think that it's because of something we've done or because they don't want to deal with us. It's important to understand that being suicidal is not something people do out of spite. They aren't actively looking for ways to leave you behind. So the next time you think someone dealing with suicidal thoughts is being selfish, remember suicidal thoughts can begin anywhere. Your environment, the way you're treated, mental illnesses, and even genetics can all play a factor in suicidal behavior. Suicide is a terrible thing that hurts a lot of people, but suicidal people aren't being selfish. Use this video as a reminder to reach out to your friends and family members who you might have hastily judged as selfish, attention-seeking, or melodramatic. Take the time to better understand your loved ones and grow deeper connections with them because you never know who might really need it. If anything in this video resonated with you, let us know by leaving a like. If you've ever dealt with suicidal thoughts, what helped you? Leave any words of encouragement or advice in the comments because you might be able to help someone more than you realize. Remember to subscribe to Psych2Go for more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.